In the United Kingdom alone, 34% of people believe in ghosts, and people are more likely to believe in these spectral beings than they are in a god. The British have always had a fascination with ghosts. At one point in time, families would gather around the fireplace to tell stories about the dead on Christmas Eve. Even today, people enjoy learning about such tales long after it gets dark. Fear is fun as long as we are safe. In the English county of Derbyshire lies a house filled with history and ghosts. The Sitwell family has owned Renishaw Hall for nearly 400 years. Having made his fortune by mining iron ore, George Sitwell built the original house in 1625. The family's wealth kept on growing. During the English Civil War, which began in 1642 and ended in 1651, the Sitwells made over 1/10 of the country's iron output, and by 1660, George Sitwell's business had become the biggest manufacturer of iron nails in the country. In 1791, Francis Sitwell decided to sell the family ironworks. Francis's son, brilliantly named Sitwell, made the press when he learned that a tiger had escaped from a circus in Sheffield. Armed with a gun, he stalked the animal in the city's streets. Between 1793 and 1808, the east and west wings of the building were added to the original hall. But by the 1840s, the Sitwells had begun to experience hardship. The family became resigned to the fact that nothing could be done to make sure the hall stayed in the family. Renishaw Hall was put up for sale, the family's belongings were auctioned off, and timber from woods the family owned was sold. Luck, however, was on the Sitwell side. Coal was found on the estate, and the family was able to remain in the hall. In the 1900s, the hall was home to the literary Sitwell siblings. Sir Osbert was a writer, Sir Satch Everell was an art and music critic, and Dame Edith wrote poetry. In the 1920s and 1930s, the siblings rivalled the well-known Bloomsbury set. Members of that particular group included E.M. Forster and Virginia Woolf. Edith and her brothers have certainly made their mark on Renishaw Hall. The home has a collection of over 30,000 books, and many parties were held there, whose guests included D.H. Lawrence. Today the hall sits in 5,000 acres of land, and the Italianate gardens stretch across 10 acres. Sir Reresby Sitwell planted a vineyard in the grounds in the 1970s. 5,000 bottles of wine are produced each year. The house itself is full of Italian furniture, and 70 works of art by John Piper are kept in the hall. The ante-dining room has a gold rose, or a sub-rosa, which signifies that any conversations held in the room should be kept discreet. Renishaw Hall isn't just a home for the living. Sir Reresby Sitwell had the house exorcised more than once, but still found himself living with the spectres of the past. Ghosts seem to have become such a part of the hall's history that the Duke's landing on the first floor has become known as the Ghost Passage. But be warned if you try to deny the existence of the ghosts who haunt Renishaw Hall. Sir George Sitwell was once talking to a guest who mentioned that she had been told that the hall was haunted. She wanted to know if Sir George had seen a ghost. "No," replied Sir George, and he added that ghosts don't exist. Sir George was then slapped on the cheek by someone who couldn't be seen. A woman has often been seen approaching an area of the hall where a staircase once stood. When she reaches what would have been the foot of the stairs, she vanishes. Given her outfit, which consists of a blue dress, a dark skirt, and a white cap upon her grey hair, the woman is believed to have once been a servant. The woman was seen by Lady Ida Sitwell on the 17th of September 1909. Lady Ida was with guests when she saw the woman, whose arms were stretched out and had her hands clasped, slowly gliding to the place where the staircase once stood. She then disappeared. Lady Ida shouted out, "Who's that?" and called out the name of the housekeeper. When there was no response, she asked those nearest to the door to, quote, "Run out and see who it is, run out at once." End quote. The entire hall was searched for an intruder, but no one was found. The sighting was documented, with Lady Ida saying, "I saw the figure with such distinctness that I had no doubt at all that I was looking at a real person, while, at the same time, although seated in a well-lighted room and chatting with friends, I was conscious of an uneasy, creepy feeling. I tried to see the features, but could not. Even before I called out, my friends noticed that I appeared to be following something with my eyes. The light in the passage was good, and I could see so well that I could distinguish the exact shade of the dress. The figure was that of a woman between 50 and 60 years of age, and her grey hair was done up into a bun under an old-fashioned cap. I have never seen a ghost, nor had I been thinking about ghosts. At one point in the hall's history, one of the bedrooms came to be called the ghost room. Temperature drops were experienced in the room, and crying could be heard coming from the room when it was known to be empty. The ghost who haunts the room is believed to be that of Henry Sacheverell, who, in 1726, drowned in a lily pond at the age of 13. Sir Eresby Sitwell's grandmother once experienced the ghost, who was known to wake women sleeping in the room by kissing them on the cheek. Sir Eresby's grandmother believed it was her husband who had woken her up, until he told her otherwise. She said, "Arthur, you were very sweet the way you came and kissed me last night." Arthur told his wife he had done no such thing. In 1885, Sir George Sitwell threw a party in celebration of his legal coming of age. Among the many guests was the Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Tate, and his daughter, Miss Tate. Miss Tate had been assigned the ghost room as her bedroom. In the middle of the night, she ran into the bedroom of Sir George's sister, Miss Sitwell. Miss Tate had been woken by the feeling of someone giving her 3 cold kisses. Knowing that Miss Tate was frightened, Miss Sitwell allowed Miss Tate to sleep in her bedroom and made up a bed for her on the sofa. But Miss Sitwell wasn't about to sleep in the ghost room. She climbed back into her bed, knowing that she had experienced the exact same thing in that very room. After the party had ended, Sir George found himself speaking with his agent, Mr. Turnbull, and explained what had happened to Miss Tate during the night. Mr. Turnbull wasn't surprised. He'd spent his honeymoon at the hall, and during his stay there, a friend of his wife's had visited them. The friend stayed in the ghost room, and she too experienced the ghost that became known as the kissing ghost. While the story of the kissing ghost isn't particularly scary, a discovery was made in the ghost room that added a strange and eerie feeling to the stories associated with that ghost. In 1899, the ghost room was demolished to make way for a staircase. Lying underneath the floorboards was a coffin. It appeared to be from the 17th century, had no lid, and had been fastened to the beams with iron clamps. There wasn't a body in the coffin, but it had most certainly been used. Pieces of hair and clothing were found inside. The reason why the coffin had been hidden underneath the floor has never been discovered. Renishaw Hall is just one example of a location full of rich history and the spirits of people who have some kind of link to the area. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the spirits of the dead seem to play a role in every society and culture. And remember, fear is fun when we know that we are safe, but while watching this video, you may not have been aware of what was creeping up behind you. Happy nightmares.